current version of Blender you can download on blender.org is 4.4.3, but the 5 version, which is about to drop, has a serious problem. So in this video I'm gonna show you what's the issue and how to solve it. First, I'm gonna tell you what's the problem, then you're hopefully gonna see why it's a problem, but if you don't, I'll tell you anyway, and then I'm gonna give you a solution. So watch this. I'm in Blender 4.4.3 and I'm gonna add a cube. Now I'm gonna run a very simple cut in here, bevel modifier, weighted normals, and I'm going to save it as untitled 1, okay? Now I'm gonna open Blender 3.6 and I will move this file and drop it into the window. And you'll see we're gonna have a simple error here, but that relates to auto smooth changes, because in Blender 3.6 auto smooth is baked into the mesh. So if I right click and shade auto smooth, I'm gonna get it baked here under normals. Then I can go here and remove this rubbish because it does nothing. But in newer version of Blender 4.1 and above, this is a modifier. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that means you don't know the basics of Blender. And if you don't know the basics of Blender, you should learn the basics of Blender because they're really important. And we have a fantastic program for you, which is called the Hard Surface Accelerator. And this program will teach you everything you need to know and none of the fluff. It's 14 days curriculum, 30 minutes per day, happy days. So grab the course, 50% off if you click the link in the video description right now, and you're gonna learn the menus, the tools, the workflow, the rendering, and even there is a bonus section on principles of design. It's a fantastic course, 4,000 plus students, and they'll love it. So click the link in the video description, grab the course and enjoy. Now going back to the video. So you can clearly see that it loads without a problem in the previous version of Blender. I can even copy paste objects as well, because it's also a thing. You don't even have to save the file. You can just simply Ctrl C and copy, as long as you have this extension enabled, which is called copy attributes menu here, right? Now they call extensions. These are add-ons that come with Blender natively, and if you enable them, they're gonna show as add-ons. But anyways, you need this enabled, so Ctrl C and copy objects, go here, nuke this rubbish, Ctrl V, done. And all you need to do is, add the auto smooth, right? Because that's the only thing you need to, fix. So this works brilliantly, especially when you're working with add-ons. And the reason why you may want to work in multiple versions of Blender is because you may want to have different settings of add-ons, different settings of Blender, different UI settings for specific Blender tasks, like for example, sculpting, rendering, texturing, whatever. And you can move files in between Blenders. And here's the problem. In Blender 4.5 and above, you can't. So let me show you. I'm gonna open Blender 5.0. And I know you're gonna say it's an experimental version or alpha version of Blender. It doesn't matter because it's baked into the blend file coding. So it's a thing and it's gonna happen. So watch this. If I'm going to run a boolean here and I'm going to run a bevel on this and weighted normals, and if I'm going to save this file, okay, as let's say untitled 3, whatever, and I'm gonna try to load it into, let's say, Blender even 4.4.3. So let's open this one. And I'm gonna try to, drop this file in here. It will not work at all. You'll get this error message that you need a version of Blender 4.5 or above. Copy pasting will not work either, and that's a problem. So if I'm gonna go back to this 5.0 here, right, and Ctrl C copy objects, and if I try to, copy paste it to 4.4.3, same issue, I can't do it. So that's a problem if you wanna, work in a different version. Now, interesting thing is that it works the other way around. So watch this. If I go to 3.6, and it goes both for files and copy pasting, and I'm gonna create a some kind of a very simple scene in here, right? And let's just create a different shape so it's a different shape, and let's save it. So save as and untitled, let's call it untitled 4. And I'm gonna go to Blender 5.0, right? And let's clean the scene. So load, the default settings, and I'm loaded in. You can see that it got loaded without any issues. In addition, Blender 5.0 created this auto smooth modifier because 3.6 doesn't have auto smooth modifier. Like I showed you, the data is baked into mesh. So this Blender understood that, and it created auto smooth modifier based on this data. So it works forward, but it doesn't work backward, right? Now, what's the solution? Since the issue is related to the blend file, what we need is a different format. So what I would suggest doing is basically exporting this as an FBX file. And it's not a perfect solution, and I'll show you why, but it's a pretty good one. Now, if I were to export this to a previous version of Blender, there are a few things to consider, okay? So let's go to the settings for exporting FBX, and I'll show what I mean. So you can either go here to File and Export, or you can go to Control S with Machine Tools and Export here. And what you want is you want to uncheck this, because this is going to limit the export to selected objects only, and you don't want that because in our case we have cutters which are not selected and they will not be exported, and if they will not be exported you will lose them. So there are two ways of doing this, right? If you want to export this mesh without modifiers being applied, you will need the cutters or shapes of the cutters to recut the mesh. Another way of doing this would be to apply all the modifiers and export it as such, and then you don't have to worry about, the booleans. So method number one, we're not going to be applying any modifiers. So let me show you. Control S, go here to export, and we're going to uncheck this, and then we're going to go here to geometry and uncheck apply modifiers. Now, if I'm not going to be applying modifiers, right, none of these going to be exported, which means I will lose the booleans, I will lose mirrors, I will lose arrays, I will lose everything. Now, we cannot really transfer mirrors or arrays. Well, mirrors can be reapplied, but arrays, you're going to lose them. So you're better off applying them before exporting, but the booleans can be fixed. Now, let me show you. The same with mirrors. Let me just run a mirror here, right, like this. And we're going to lose the mirror too. So watch this. I'm going to export it, right, as an FBX. So deselect this one and deselect this one, and we're going to export it to desktop, untitled, perfect, and we're going to open it in Blender 4.4.3. So Control S here, and we're going to import it, and let's just click that, and good to go. Now you see the shading is a bit fucked up because, obviously we don't have any modifiers, so we lost weighted normal, we lost bevel, we lost auto smooth, but the custom split normal data is still present on this mesh, so we need to fix this. So we need to go here. It's basically applied by weighted normal modifier and auto smooth. So you want to clear that, and you're gonna be good to go. Now, what we want to do first, we're gonna apply a bevel, right? And then what we're going to do is we want to run these cuts. You see, these cuts were not applied because we did not apply modifiers, but we do have the shapes, so we can recut the mesh. So we can select them both. We can go here and we can switch them to shade wire. And now we're going to cut the mesh. So let's run a regular boolean, and let's run a boolean here, right? And then we're going to mirror this mesh. And you basically where you started. So you recovered this mesh as you had before. You got the mirrors, we can even, add the weighted normal to fix the shading. You got the booleans and, happy days. But you will lose, like I said, arrays, solidification, so you will have to apply them before exporting or export your mesh with modifiers applied. And that's going to be a second method I'm going to show you right now. So if you wanted to export this mesh with modifiers applied, you need to be careful. Not all the modifiers can be applied, because watch this. If I go to preferences, enable another extension, which is interesting. It's called modifier tools. It's a really good one. So let's enable that. And this is basically going to introduce kind of menu here. It will allow me to apply all the modifiers at once. So if I'm going to apply all modifiers, right, I will have a problem with the bevel. You see that bevel got applied. So if I want to change the size of the bevel, add additional booleans, or do whatever else with this mesh in the other version of Blender, it's going to be very difficult to do with this baked bevel. So you got to be careful what modifiers you're applying. So in this case, what I would suggest doing is I would suggest removing the bevel, which is going to mess up the shading a bit. But to fix that, you can move a weighted normal modifier underneath the smooth by angle. And then if you export it as such, you will apply booleans, mirrors, smooth by angle on weighted normals, right? So let's try that. So Control S and export that as FBX. And now we don't really care about the modifier shapes, although if you want to include them in your export, you want to uncheck this, but let's say we don't need them. So let's check that. And here you want to check apply modifiers and export as untitled one. And now in Blender 4.4.3, I'm gonna go with, FBX import and import this FBX here, right? And you see that all the modifiers were applied. I can go here to data. I can nuke this custom split normals, and I can simply reapply a bevel, which is going to reintroduce smooth by angle, and I'm going to introduce weighted normals. So there you go, it works. And you know, the only difference is that everything now is applied, right? All the booleans, everything is applied, but the bevel isn't, which is really important, because now what you can do, you can just, you know, keep working on this mesh if you want to, and the bevel will continue. So it's really important, right? So that's going to be the only way to export, or, you know, basically move your mesh from a newer version of Blender to an older one. It's a bit of a annoyance, but, you know, it is what it is. And that's how I would recommend, you know, going around this. All right, well, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something useful. And like I said in the beginning, if you're interested in learning hard surface modeling workflow in Blender as fast as possible and as efficiently as possible, grab our course, the Hard Surface Accelerator. The link is in the video description, and if you click the link right now, you're gonna get 50% off. We have over 4,000 students in the program. You can read all the testimonials on our page. People love the course because it's really well structured, based on the feedback we received from over 140,000 clients that we served. And this course will save you a lot of time and deliver exactly the knowledge you need to become proficient at hard surface modeling in Blender. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.